Hey, this is Anthony with RevZilla. You watch, decide, and ride. Welcome to our detailed breakdown of the new HJC I17 helmet, available at RevZilla.com. This is the I17 from HJC, new for the fall of 18. To my left is a helmet that is subtly different. This is the I17, which actually has been around since 2013. The helmet in front of me in gray would be its successor. Now, when we look at these lids, these are sub $200 helmets. The new one's gonna be around $180. The predecessor was about $160. But I'll tell you, they made a few changes that upgrade the functionality on the new I17, and they've only increased the helmet $20. And if we look at these two helmets, which are essentially about 5 years apart from one another, a cost increase of about $20, in my opinion, basically covers the materials, which I'm sure have gone up in cost over time. Now, if we look at it, everyday lid, it's gonna do a lot of the basics really well. One of the key changes here is that you still have a drop-down sun visor, a little bit bigger of a coverage area, but now it's on the side. The mechanism is smooth, it's cable actuated, and it works down here along the left jaw. Now, the positive of this is what we typically see in the moto universe these days versus the top Mohawk style vent, which is a little harder to find, or Mohawk actuator rather. But down here along the side, there is a drawback, and that drawback is it can interfere if you want to do a clamp mount or even at times a sticky mount comm unit, while this helmet is set up with speaker pockets so you can add a Cardo or a Cena after the fact. One of the other things you're going to notice about this lid is that the basic angle of attack here is a little bit more sweeping, a little bit more aggressive. You have more of a hawk's bill type of an approach, a little bit more contemporary. I like the new design. I think it feels more in line with what we see on the market today, where if we look at the 2013 version, yeah, it's a little bit more plain Jane. Now, they're both polycarb, and they're both gonna be about 3 pounds, 9 ounces, which 3.5 ounces for an everyday helmet, polycarb coming in under the $200 mark, being ECE rated, that actually works. That's rock solid. That's great helmet functionality and protection scheme for $1. Now, let's briefly dive into fitment here. If we look at these two, they're both carrying a similar profile. I'm gonna call it intermediate to neutral oval. Now, intermediate oval, from what we see of most manufacturers these days, is a little bit longer front to back. I'm an intermediate oval head shape. What neutral oval is, which HJC does really well, is they give you, some people call it more of a touring fit. I don't call it that. It's really a head shape. Around the crown, you're gonna have a little bit more width. So a little bit more wideness right in here around the temples for more of an intermediate to neutral versus a longer or narrower head shape. So keep that in mind. Now, diving into some of the other nuances, some of the other changes, you're gonna see that the vent scheme has been updated. 2 vents on top, which are stealing DNA from more of the high-end models like the Alpha ST in the HJC family. And they've also updated down here along the chin bar. You're getting a better ventilation scheme there. So they've beefed up the intakes. You're losing 2 winglets on the back of this helmet. You're not going to have 2 of the passive winglets that you had on the I17. I'll tell you, I really don't care. Those passive vents are great, but what's more important to me is going to be intakes that are better and more optimized for airflow when it starts to get warm. Because remember, this helmet's a great touring helmet, sport touring helmet, commuting helmet. For under $200, it could be an awesome second helmet that you just kind of throw in your car. Now, I will tell you that an HJC as well is less of a fickle helmet. These helmets are kind of bomb-proof. They're built to a spec which ultimately doesn't see them roll around. If they sit in your trunk, they sit in their garage, they're not gonna break down on you, which is a nice touch. Some other higher-end helmets or different manufacturers sometimes can be a little more fickle. You have vents that might pop off. That can happen. I'll also say, as we work through our shield here, that the biggest change in the shield's very similar. Locking mechanism in the front, but what they've done to address a previous issue is you now have stronger detents. And the detents are the little slots that kind of lock in as you move the shield up and down. You now have a stronger detent at the bottom, so you can crack it and go to that city position, which again adds some air to the anti-fog factor. And the anti-fog factor is addressed here by being pinlock ready. These posts allow you to purchase a pinlock separately, which gives you that laws of physics defogging versus a fog-free coating. But that pinlock does not come stock in the box. If we rotate the helmet around, again, you're seeing this angle of attack. On the back side here, you do have a big back top passive Venturi vent, which is gonna pull via that vacuum behind your head, warm, moist air out and through the helmet. Overall, though, it's not the big story here. The big story really is value for dollar has, if anything, gone up as they've improved the helmet and really only incrementally increased the cost. Now, if I dive into the lid itself, double D-ring is what we'd consider to be stock. I'm gonna pull out your cheek pads. Again, antimicrobial, they're going to be wicking, easily washable. The fact that you can pull these out and defuncify these means that you can keep this helmet riding stronger longer. Again, both sides, and you'll see behind, right where your chin straps meet the shell wall of the helmet, notice that big pocket right there. That's a nice cutaway for a speaker pocket, and it's deep enough to accommodate more of an upgraded speaker that you might see these days from Sena or Cardo. Now, if we look at the main comfort liner, 2 snaps in the occipital ridge, and you're gonna see me pull this from the front, and you're gonna see plastic to plastic. This is what I consider an ideal construction for lids these days. There's no pressure points on the forehead, plastic to plastic mounting in the front. You have nice big cutouts so airflow can work its way through the lid. And like I said, you're going to have those 2 suboccipital ridge, that's the back kind of lobe on your head. You're never gonna feel these. They are on the beefiest part of the comfort liner, so they're never in the way. And if we look at that, areas of mesh that are going to be your highest sweat areas around the crown of the head, and like I said, big cutaways which are going to channel venting through the helmet. Now, if we look at that vent scheme, you're going to see intakes in the front, inclusive of the brow line, big 10mm vent holes channeling air back along the mohawk, back through those holes, which support those rear venturi vents, and all the way down to the back side of your neck. So all in, if we look at the new I-70, like I mentioned earlier, $20 incremental increase in cost. You could just say that's raw materials. The helmet got a redesign, the vents were beefed up, you have a better performing face shield, and they've moved the actuator for your larger drop-down sun visor, which saves you having to carry that dark smoke shield in your bag, but there are trade-offs with that. But the next step in your journey is to click your info button, desktop, your mobile device. Visit the product detail page at RevZilla.com. Read other rider reviews. You shouldn't just take my word for it. If you want to talk to a gear geek, see us at RevZilla.com or 877-792-9455. Thanks for watching our detailed breakdown. Remember, subscribe to us at RevZilla on our YouTube channel. Stay up to date with our opinion of the latest and greatest in the moto universe. I'm Anthony. We'll see you next time.